I did my project over the importance of biodiversity, and in this first source, a political cartoon by Matt Corder, the biodiversity is hyperbolized in order to get his point across. And from this drawing, you can conclude that Corder is concerned about the diminishing biodiversity in the world and feels that something should be done to address it. And in my second source, titled The Biodiversity Blunder by George Woodwell, Woodwell takes a different viewpoint than Corder by saying that the biodiversity problem has been overhyped by many within the journalistic and scientific community. He argues that the so-called problem of diminishing biodiversity is not as extreme as it has been portrayed. He claims that there is no solid proof backing the claims made by scientists as to the importance of biodiversity to the global ecosystem. But Woodwell is not necessarily against the protection of biodiversity. He feels it should be protected for moral and aesthetic reasons, but overall argues that the biodiversity argument has been overplayed and overhyped. The third source by author Shashardi was my personal favorite because he viewed the importance of biodiversity from a unique stance. Rather than the typical arguments over biodiversity pertaining to economics and ecosystems, Shashardi analyzed biodiversity from a genetic standpoint. He argues that biodiversity is important for the sake of continuing evolution. Without variation within the genome, organisms cannot diversify and adapt, meaning that evolution will not continue. Shashardi makes a strong argument because he goes beyond economics and society and instead addresses something that affects all life on the planet. My fourth source by author Alan Randall is interesting because it focuses less on the why of saving biodiversity and more on the how. He argues that the only way to save declining rates of biodiversity is to appeal to human nature. He claims that humans have certain needs that they will always prioritize, and will usually not prioritize biodiversity since it is not necessarily an important and pressing topic. Therefore, Allen argues it is necessary to use biodiversity to appeal to the utilitarian aspects of society. Appealing to this utilitarian aspect means advertising biodiversity as something that can be used by humans. He argues that if biodiversity can be used, then it will become important and worth saving. My final source, titled Turning Green into Gold, is by author Phyllis Coley. It is similar to the source before in that it focuses on biodiversity as an economic aspect. This source provides specific ideas and examples on how to portray biodiversity as an investment and a viable source of income.